I started off my life with Carle as an infant and obviously started to grow older and get to know him as I grew into an older child. Carle was always nice to me and always trying to teach me or just filling my head with content. Time passed along, Carle started taking me out on little adventures and we go out to Hope quite a bit. Prospecting, looking for jade, running his sluice box. There pretty much wasn't an area that Carle was scared to get to, and if he couldn't get to it, it was because he was in fear for our safety and would more than likely go back later on his own. Some of the places that he took me, there was a couple of times where I do remember being really scared. One of them, I cannot remember exactly where it was, but we were on a logging road and part of the road was missing. And I was on the passenger side and there was a whole great big gap in the road, probably about the size of half the rear end, but I thought we were going to turn around, but that was not an option. Carle took out a piece of wood and put it over the hole in the road and we drove over it while I was scared out of my wits. And I do remember he really got big into the rocks and stuff, and to this day I like minerals and rocks and stuff myself. I honestly, I carry crystals and rocks around in my pocket wherever I go, and I'm sure that's because of him. And this year I'll be going out to the interior and Soyuz and all those places that we used to haunt together, but now as an older man, probably more than likely the same age as he was back then, and now I'm going to go out there with my daughter and do the same thing. He had a really strong musical influence on me. I'm not a professional musician by any means, but music is something that keeps me grounded. I have a big love for piano, and whenever I hear somebody that knows their way around a piano or something like that, I can stop and listen to it for a long, long time. I make musical instruments myself. I honestly don't know where that passion for making musical instruments or anything comes from, but I would think that Carle, being the only musical influence in my life, has probably got me to this place, because it's coincidental that I like minerals and stones and gold panning and musical instruments, and I like piano, so I'd have to say I give that to him. He was a very kind man. I never remember ever being physically disciplined. Carle always talked to me and educated. He preferred an education method in teaching a child and telling what's wrong and not to do it again. He was intolerant of cruelty. He was like a modern day hero, a silent hero, and now we get to see him through his pages and art and his paintings. And
the shop of Carle Hessay. My son was just about 6 or 7 months old, so I took him around to look in the shop windows, and I saw Carle's paintings. I thought, gee, this looks really interesting. So I went into the shop, he explained about his paintings. The following day, Carle came around to see me. He brought a nice barbecue chicken. He put it down on the table for us, and he ate it. All of it. After that, we started going out on his weekends. He went out and he liked to prospect along the Fraser River, and we also camped along the Fraser River on the bar, first of all. And he'd start digging for his gold, and I'd bring him little pails of water. And we did this pretty well every weekend. He'd find tiny bits of gold and pieces of jade, and then home we'd come. Well, he found green jade easily, but one time he found the white jade. So he sold it to a fellow there, and then we all went out for supper. But the money, that was about it. And we went further into the Coquihalla when it was very snowy, before they kind of wrecked and cut down everything. All the beautiful trees. And he put a rope around the trees or some kind of very firm piece on the cliff, and he'd hold the rope going down, and with his sluice bag and his pan, and down he'd go. Right down to the river, and that's how we got up, like this, holding the rope with all his stuff in the back, and I'd follow him up. Yeah, it was really something. We did meet a lot of hippies, draft dodgers at that time, and he got stuck in part of the river in the Coquihalla, and so they came along and pushed him out. The following weekend, we went up there, and we found the hippies, and we brought them homemade soap and some bit of food, homemade, some food. And they had some brownies, and they gave Carle brownies. And they were watching him eat them, and nothing happened. He said nothing, and then they asked him, well, did you like those brownies? He said, yeah. He said, I had a lot stronger in China. He painted pictures, beautiful pictures, and he sold them. And this one young couple bought them, and he put a skeleton in the water. An awful face, but he painted pretend it was all river and kind of painted a little over. And they used to watch it on the wall for a while. And all of a sudden they came back and the woman screamed, "Carl, you did this purposely. That's a terrible face in there. You did that purposely." I remember she was screaming in horrification. So he had to paint it out. But he did tricks like that with his paintings. He was good at it. You never knew what he was going to pull off. Every day he was painting. His bright colors, he'd open a can or mix paint, and he'd get some berries and put them in and mash them and put them into the colors. Maybe color, whites and that. He had most of his own coloring. He liked to do it that way. When he sold a painting in the shop after Vancouver, we'd go to either listen to an opera or go to watch a ballet, which was really nice. The unfairness of the world, the politics, the bad treatment that people were getting because of these big corporations, that bothered him a great deal. He didn't like a lot of that, so he painted his, flames. It was in his heart, a lot of this. Because he has so much to say, that was what he was trying to say.